All right. What do we got going on signing day, which is exciting day. But it's such a different new world. We have a lot of new faces that have been here for a couple weeks. We had uh, new high school guys, new transfer guys. We had high school guys that came in January. We have a bunch more that'll be coming in the summer. So uh, it's a lot of fun. It's pretty exciting. The exciting part is the new world and all of the new faces coming together and building the locker room and the team together that way. For guys that have been here in the past and guys that are newcomers, and kind of mixing all of them together and to come together as one football team to hopefully give us a team that can go compete for a championship this season.
Dan, obviously a lot of transfers coming in. Is that kind of just a sign of the times in terms of flipping over rosters and things like that?
Well, I think we'll see from one year to the next. I think that's part of the sign of the time. We had a lot come in this year. We had a lot leave, but that's with the coaching transition. There's a lot that goes on with that. And you have some guys that had played with the old head coach and played with him before. We have several guys that have played for me before that were really excited to come back and play here. So I think that relationship holds true for where you go, the relationships you've developed. Some of the signees that left from the early signing period, obviously one being the former head coach's son. So you kind of, some of that stuff makes sense. I think just in today's new world, it makes it a little bit, I don't know, easier, maybe the transition easier of saying, hey, these guys they're looking for different opportunities to go either with the previous coaching staff or opportunities to go play one more year somewhere else or whatever the different opportunities are. But it opened up a lot of opportunities for guys to come here. So we'll see if that holds true with that big a number in years to come, where there's an opportunity. Maybe there was more stability as I'm here as the head coach for a long time, of guys coming and the reason they're playing, the stability within that program, the consistency of it to stay longer in their careers.
And obviously a lot of attention to the quarterbacks in general, but Calandria and Orji, what stood out to you about them and wanting to bring them aboard?
Both of my being out for the last couple of years, I got to actually call a Calandria game, so I've got to see him live and in person. And gotten to watch him play a bunch, and his skill set, he's got an it factor, a swagger to him. He plays with a lot of confidence, and he can do the things both of them actually. You look for things. Do they have the things that are hard to coach? His ability to extend plays and make special things happen when something breaks down really excited me about him. With Alex, I've got to watch him a lot this season, spending every Saturday in a studio, sitting next to, Matt Berry, who would be neutral on that situation until the Sun Devils came on. But sitting next to a Joey Galloway, who was always very invested in what was going on from that school up north of his. We got to watch a lot of that. You'd pay attention to a lot of them. And for me, watching his skill set, he was a guy I was really excited about, of what he brings to the table. And, in how I've always been with quarterbacks is our job as coaches is you build our system's big enough, our playbook's big enough that we only use a portion of it in every season. We want to fit it around the strengths of the players. And you look at his strong points, what he has is, his leadership, his mental toughness, his physicality, his ability to run the football, and his arm talent. All of those things are there. Are we coaching the things, the balance, the accuracy, some of those things that you can actually coach. I always take things at the quarterback position. You want them to have the things that are hard to coach and need to improve on the things that are easier to coach. And I love those type of guys, and both of them have that.
And obviously, I know it's February, 5th, but do you envision...
2/5/25. Right. I was writing that date down.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool deal.
I know in the past, obviously, with like Chris Leak and Tebow, you used two quarterbacks. These two guys may or may not fit that mold. Is that something you can envision for these two guys, or is it, hey, I want one guy?
We'll see. We haven't been on the field at all yet, so we'll see how it goes. I think everybody in the program, I talk to our guys, everybody's competing. I don't know that guys are competing for starting jobs. Guys are competing for playing time, right? The most interesting stat in football that no one keeps is who finishes. right? There's a big football game coming up on Sunday. Everyone's going to get into who played the first play of the game. That's the starter. 4th down and 5 from the, 4th and goal from the 5, down 6 with 10 seconds left in the game. That's probably the stat you want to keep because the 11 best guys on both teams will be on the field for that play. So I always talk to our guys that way. We'll see at the quarterback position, but every position is people not just competing for starting jobs. That's the starters, the guy who plays the first play of the game. I'd always pay more attention to the finishing job, who plays the most important last play of the game. But most importantly is guys are playing for reps and playing time. That if we have depth, we'll play multiple guys at every position.
I talked to your people at ESPN about that. The stat.
It's a pretty I would talk about it all the time. I'm like, hey, don't you really want to see honestly? Because what happens if you're right? We're fortunate enough in a game. We'll go defense first. We block a punt, and the ball goes down to the 1-yard line. We recover it. We run out goal line offense. Well, every receiver, not all of them lost their consecutive start streaks. It's happened to me in a game. We had receivers I'd started 26 consecutive games, and I didn't get a start. Well, I'm like, yeah, you did. No, I didn't, because the first play we were in goal line personnel on 1st and goal from the 1, and so officially they didn't start. So he was on the field for the last play. Well, actually, I think we won big, so he wasn't on the field for the last play of the game either. But but that's usually the more important one.
Coach, most of these players are here right now. Can you talk about what you've seen in your building the culture of your winter program?
Well, I think the great thing there was a great culture here. You don't have a successful football team. You don't win 11 football games without having a great culture inside the building. So the guys that were already here, there was a great culture, and there was a hunger to win. And there's what I mean by that of not the hunger to win the one more game, the hunger to get that title. They felt to fall one game short. There is a desire to get right back out there on the field. And when you look at the culture, I would have said, I've been around teams, and it's hard in today's world. I think there were more coaches opted out of the bowl game than players opted out of the bowl game. So, that's what a great sign that is, right? That is of guys that love the program and want to be a part of it. Then you bring guys in, and a lot of the guys we talk to coming in, they're coming here to win. To be developed, to be coached, to get on the field and go compete and win for championships. So I think when you do that and they're walking into a situation we're not in a rebuilding situation here. We're in a take the next step situation here. And so I think that attitude with everybody on the team here is already showing. I think they're walking around saying, hey, to be a great team, we have good culture. I think we've put together a really good coaching staff, not just on the field, administratively, in the weight room. Everybody, a really good football department. And I think those guys see that. They're really excited about it. And they're looking at each other saying, okay, hey, we got to build this culture. We got to build this family. We got to come together as a team if we want to accomplish all of these goals. Not just looking and saying, hey, you know what? We were a game away last year. Got a great feeling around the building. Obviously, there's things in place. Hey, we brought a lot of talent in. We got the talent to go do it. They know they have to come together as a team, and that's a great feeling that you see going on right now.
You go with the talent, obviously one of the most talented players. Was there a theme in your mind, whether it be athleticism, certain filling positions that kind of defined your class?
Well, we wanted to be fast, big, strong, and talented. I want us to not just walk off the bus and look good. I want us to walk on the field and look good, and I want to line up every snap and look good. And I want to, at the end of the snap, people say, "Wow, those guys are good." So that was what we were building. We went out. Honestly, and just said, hey, let's just go try to recruit the best team we possibly can. If we, and then we're going to evaluate those guys through recruiting, and then evaluate the guys that were already here. We had a lot of veteran players leave, whether they, decided to transfer to go somewhere else for a final year, or a lot of players finished their eligibility. So we have a lot of younger players without a ton of film. So we went out and said, hey, we're going to evaluate those guys, but let's try to create the best football team we can create at every position across the board through recruiting, and then we'll add them to the talent that's already here that we're excited about as we balance out all the numbers to try to create depth. I think, one of the things you see championship teams today, they have depth. A lot of the recipes that go into it, right? I mean, certainly, your schedule, how it plays out for you, all of those different things, but all, health, how you stay healthy as a team. But if you don't, the depth that you have to get through an entire long season to go compete. So hopefully we not just recruited maybe a great 30 or 22 to 30 guy, we created a great 60 some guys that you need to rotate and play significant amount of plays during a season.
Dell Alexander was talking. He said that you were very involved in watching, film of every player that you were recruiting. Just what's your philosophy on how involved you want to be and how much you want to be in the trenches like that with every guy?
Well, always. I mean, I'm responsible for all of them, and it ultimately. The program is my responsibility, is on my shoulders. So I want to know who we're bringing in here, what their abilities are, what they can do, and for me, that's evaluating, that's recruiting, that's visiting with and sitting down with every single person. And in today's world, it is a little bit different. Like before, they used to come in and like the big meeting like culminates with like the head coach. A lot of times, Lee Davis, who's our chief of staff and GM, she has the culminating meeting with a lot of these guys, with, hey, here's how everything breaks down for you in coming here, how scholarships and all the other things and opportunities, different opportunities, how it would break down for you if you come join our program. So I think there's a lot more people maybe involved in it, but I'm certainly hands-on on who we're recruiting, how we're going to recruit them, how they're going to be developed in our program, and as I go meet with them and building that relationship, because the program ultimately falls on my shoulders.
Coach, what's your excitement like just to work with Coach Dennis and the experience he's bringing from Ohio State?
And so we're having a lot of fun. I think what's really interesting is I was in a staff meeting yesterday. We kind of did a agility walkthrough or agility competition with and I'm like, okay, how many guys have been through this before, to know what's going on. And I'm talking the entire department in there, right? And our strength coach had been through it with me at Florida before. Our offensive line coach had been through it before. And 2 recruiting analysts had done the program as players playing for me before. I'm like, is that it? So everybody else is learning this new. But when you look, we went in offensively. We were meeting, now it's really kind of grinding towards football right now. We've been out on the road recruiting, doing a lot of that. It's really getting the time going in football. A lot of the guys come from a similar tree. But the specifics are, the outline of the different offenses that we've run. Now it's getting it and putting our package together specifically and kind of merging the different things that whether, Coach Dennis took with him from his time at Ohio State and Tulsa, Coach Alexander being here and his vast experience of like all of the entire coaching staff, right, on the offensive side of the ball with my background, and, part of it's creating the language, right, because, I say hello, they say hola, and now, I know a little bit of Spanish, so I can generally tell you what that means, but in football terms, we know what it means, but we all got to say the same thing we all want to be right on the deal, because, I have one guy over here, if everybody's speaking different languages, right, and the third guy over here is like, mahalo, we're in some trouble. All right? We all got to, I don't care. Like, I'm a mahalo person. I love it. Like, mahalo, we'll go with that. That's our word. We're calling that formation this. Like, we'll get rid of hello. But, it's getting us all on that page of making sure we're all together as we go present it to the players, so we're not speaking all different language. I got to find my translator, though, because in the heat of the moment, sometimes I've done it a bunch before, and I'll be like, let's run this. And I've been on the headsets at different locations. Like, yeah, we don't call that anymore, Coach. This is what it's called now. And I'm like, okay, well, call that then. That sounds good. Oh, it's pretty exciting, I think. I think the opportunities to be there, it plays out as a college football person. You see, okay, the first round, you see the benefit of playing home field advantage. And you know, I mean, that's one of the things I want to make sure we have here at Allegiant Stadium and through UNLV fans everywhere and through the city of Las Vegas, that, I mean, nobody wants to have to walk into that stadium to play the Rebels. Like, they don't want to do that. That's a major advantage because of our, not just the environment, not just the stadium, but our home crowd. And I think you saw that in the early rounds of the playoffs. Second round, really interesting. I think a lot of people are going to go back and study that. The coaches of, you know, what was the advantage of 2 weeks off compared to 4 weeks off? Because all the 4-week teams lost. So I think there'll be a lot of discussion and coaching calls going back and forth. What happened in the 2 weeks compared to 4 weeks? You know, but I think it is really exciting. I think it's exciting for a lot of teams. I think, you know, you look for the Mountain West Conference to have a team in the playoffs. You know, I want to make sure, hopefully, we're the team in the college football playoff representing the conference this time next year. And, you know, and we find a way not just to go represent us, but find a way to go win some of those games. And, you know, and go have that opportunity to go play on the biggest stage in college football.
Tavian McNair is a pretty highly ranked high school player, and he became available late in the process. What was that recruitment like for you guys to bring him in?
Well, I think it was huge. Obviously, I think through the whole process, his relationship with Coach Alexander was huge. You know, and I think he did a great job recruiting him and developing that relationship. So when the opportunity came for him to look for, you know, what was going to fit for him, the opportunity to be here, to come home, to play here at UNLV was huge, and the comfort level with having a coach he was very comfortable with as a position coach and had that relationship with, as well as the opportunity to see, okay, hey, this is what the offense is going to look like in the future, and I'm a wide receiver, and I want to play in that type of offense. And I think that's that was, you know, certainly didn't hurt that we brought in some great quarterbacks. It didn't hurt that they're looking at the style of offense we're going to run, and I think for him, looking at the relationship he had with the position coach was really important.
Jalen Glover's another guy that got a lot of attention. How does he fit into your offense?
Well, he's great. You know, I recruited Jalen coming out of high school. You know, when I was coaching at Florida, we offered him. We wanted him at Florida, and so it's someone I've known for a long time. You know, and you look at his work ethic, his toughness, his physicality. You know, I want backs that are physical backs. You know, and so, I mean, he has that size and physicality to run between the tackles, also has the ability to make you miss, and when he does get into the open field. So I think those combinations of things, I want to see him. We're going to use the backs a lot in the passing game, where, you know, and I've got to see him a little bit during the recruiting process a long time do it, not as much playing, more he's run the ball more than caught it, but also getting to watch our guys and using it. Excited about Jed and his ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield. The matchups you can create that way, I think, are huge. So we ask our running backs to do a lot of things. And, you know, I always tell our guys, the more things you do, the more dangerous a weapon you are. And within the offense, and the greater mismatches we can create. You know, if I can find ways to create mismatches on the field because you have a bigger skill set, the more we're going to use that.
Speaking of Jet Thomas, just special teams, his ability in the return game, what are you excited about with him?
A lot, you know. Now, I mean, we've brought some other guys in. You know, JoJo Earl's a guy was a dynamic returner in the SEC. So we have some guys that in the return game and special teams that'll be great. You know, a lot of our guys, and you know, the greatest thing about special teams are the only plays in football that average a 40-yard change of field possession on just about every special team play from where it is. So that puts guys the opportunities to be in the open field, and I think we've gone out and gotten some guys. We have some guys returning and obviously brought some guys in that are very dangerous open field players. And so, you know, I'm excited special teams-wise to get them in the open field and hopefully offensively get them in the open field as well.
With the portal and the different windows, it sort of seems like roster building sort of goes almost all year round now. Understanding you haven't played spring ball yet, how close to a final roster do you think you have? How much more do you have to put together in the spring and summer now?
Well, hopefully we have a lot. Hopefully we're pretty much done. You'd love to see, One thing on the outside, and even as a coach, in understanding today's world, you got into this, and one of the great rewards of coaching was seeing a young kid in high school and then seeing him 5 years later. You see him walk in the door, and you see, as a young high school kid, and you see him walk out the door as a man. And a lot of those guys with master's degrees, that very successful careers, that have built internships and have a foundation for success for the rest of their life to go on and move on, whether it's in football or business or wherever they're taking themselves, whatever field they're going into. I'm a big with my own kids. I'm big with anybody. You start something, you finish it. Well, if you look in today's world in college football, you'd love at least to get to 1 year. If you can eliminate maybe the second transfer portal window, and you sit and say, okay, guys, hey, we're here. This is our team for the next year. Just 1 year commitment even. If you're involved in it, I think that's a good lesson for kids to teach people. If you're going to start it, finish it. And so you'd love that to happen. I think that would certainly help with roster building, because then you're sitting here right now, we're saying, okay, we know what we have. It would certainly help even in recruiting. Today's National Signing Day, and a lot of people, they worry, how does transfer portal affect high school recruits? Well, it's pretty simple. Is first-day classes, we know this is our roster for kind of next season. We have this many spots still available. Let's go sign this many high school players. Gives more opportunities for high school players moving forward. I think if we could just get a little bit of some common sense in that, I think it would go a long way. And for helping, not just the roster building for me, helping the kids in the program, helping develop a team, helping develop all of that camaraderie within a 1 year team, and helping life lessons that football teaches some of the, teaches some of the greatest life lessons. And, you want to make sure we're not losing those life lessons that are taught in football.
You talked about how it's the signing day and the recruiting has changed. Having been on it for a little while, just how do you feel personally? Did you enjoy it? Like, what is it like?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now there's multiple signing days, right? We only signed a couple guys today. And, I remember usually, I would have been coming into this meeting usually pretty grumpy because I hadn't slept in 3 days because I was on the phone at 4 a.m. last night, still talking to everybody, trying to get everything done. When there's the one signing day, most of our recruiting class is already on campus, and they're getting pushed through workouts and going to class already. So I think through the years it's changed an awful lot, and so maybe that anxiety of that one specific day is very different with how you build the roster, where it used to all come down to this one day, and I'd be coming in here with bags underneath my eyes, ready, get me. How fast can I get out of here, to go catch my breath for 10 minutes? Now I'm kind of team workout this morning. We got to talk football for the first time in 3 years. I sat in a staff room talking football last night, with our guys. That was amazing to go do that, and that was a lot of fun. So, but the recruiting, recruiting's going year round. So we're already on the phone with all 26s and 27s already today, getting ready for their big day whenever the NCAA decides to say it is next year.
You talked about just the amount of new guys. I'm curious if this is a pretty untapped market when it comes to just college football stars over the course of the decades. Is there any sort of plan or attack, or just selling these kids on just this city and how they'd be involved with it in this recruiting process?
Well, I think this. I think, I've always thought UNLV was a sleeping giant. I did that. I was in the Mount West Conference 20 years ago now at the University of Utah, and I looked at certain advantages that the city had. Now, if I went back then, this was not a heavily recruited area 20 years ago. You look at the city now and the growth of the city. And I'm not just talking about a specific high school, powerhouse high schools. The depth of football players in this city has really grown over the last 20 years. So there is a lot of local talent for us to recruit. I think you always start in your backyard. I think in the direction the program's headed, there's a lot more, young kids. If I went into you go into a house and say, to meet with a quarterback, hey, I coach Tim Tebow. They're like, oh, who's that? The parents know maybe, but the kids Is he like on TV or something? Sometimes I've seen him like, I saw him at my church. Did he play football? Um, but the younger kids in the city now, when you look at how the direction this program's been heading over the last couple years, there's a reason to come play here. There is a reason to come. I mean, we have unbelievable facilities. We play in an unbelievable stadium. We have the opportunity to go compete for championships. I expect this to be one of the top programs, if not the top program, on the western part of the United States. So for kids, they don't have to get on a plane and go leave here all the time to come achieve all their goals and accomplish all their goals. They can stay right here at home for us. But I think the advantages of this school, I mean, guys can – majority of the roster, I was at Mississippi State. We built a team that went to number 1 in the country and basically put a dot, drove a 5-hour driving radius around Starkville, Mississippi, and the majority of the team was from there. And if you do that, that includes Southern California, that includes Phoenix, the accessibility, and then you take this city and the accessibility to this city makes it a very desirable place for guys, not just all the local guys where we want to focus on and not just in the city, but in our 5-hour radius, but also the availability of this city to players from the state of Texas or the Midwest or even the East Coast. The Northwest, we're a very accessible place to get to, so it makes it a great place for them to come play.
Coach, it looks like there's a Manchester, New Hampshire to Vegas.
I heard that Chip was texting me the other day, like Mancha Vegas is coming out west. As we used to call Mancha Vegas, right? It's like the Vegas of New Hampshire up there. It's happening in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's wild. The city that never sleeps. Right? I mean, as long as you can get into the back room before 10 p.m. restaurant, you're good to go. But at 10, the doors are shut.
I'm not sure if you guys, how close you guys are with your coaching past, but what did you make of him following you to Vegas in a sense?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. You know what, our paths, to be honest with you, both being from the same hometown, that's how I got into coaching. I was a senior in college, wanted to get into coaching, and we were all kind of from Chip to me down to Ryan, all kind of enough apart. We never I think it's about 5 to 6 years between each of us. And then Chip and Ryan went to Central and I went to Trinity High School. And I was in the middle between the two. So it kind of like there was a spread that we never crossed over, never played with each other, never were at the same school. But I give Chip, you knew each other just in the town that we were from. There was, if you ever meet people from Manchester, New Hampshire, they have a lot of pride. I've lived in the South a long time, so my accent's kind of gone, right? I mean, I bet Chip's like wicked excited to get out here, and like they're gonna play hard, the Raiders, he kept a little bit of northeast edge to him, but people in the hometown, they're like, hey, you want to get into coaching, you got to call Chip. I played against him. He was the D coordinator at Johns Hopkins when I was at Ursinus my senior year. I think we got a win over him, and he had gone, and I mean, he's first person I called, and he helped me. He helped me get my first coaching job. And then so our paths constantly cross, possibly throughout the years of taking care of each other. I remember him calling me. I was at Florida. He's like, "Hey, I got this younger guy, Ryan Day, needs a GA. Like, he's down at Boston. He's the big time." And I knew Ryan obviously from being from the same hometown, even though we didn't play against each other and. We've always kind of tried to help and take care of each other that way, and so I think it's really cool to have him right down the street. I imagine we're going to be sharing some different ideas throughout the next year.
Anything else? Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
What's up, everyone?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Not bad.
Question?
What's your excitement like to work with Dan Mullen?
Obviously, I'm extremely excited, right? It was going to take a special place for Coach Mullen to get back into coaching, and and this is obviously a special place. And what Coach Mullen has done offensively and as a head coach, he's been nothing but successful, and so it's really exciting to be able to work with him.
You guys are bringing in 2 quarterbacks with unique skill sets in Calandria and Orji. What are some of the things that stand out to you about both of those guys?
Haven't really gotten to spend too much time with them on the field or do anything like that, but obviously their tape, it jumps off. They do a lot of cool things, a lot of creative things. I think just in the little bit that we've been around them, their leadership, their presence, they walk into the room, they've kind of been there, they've done it before, they've played the game, so that's something that we're excited about.
In this new scene of college football, it feels like guys already have so many unique experiences before they even get to a spot now. Do you find that when you're interacting with guys like the quarterbacks that they bring those experiences into these new situations and it's beneficial?
Well, I think in today's world of the transfer portal, there's so many guys out there. There's so many options for so many people, right? Coaches, players, all kinds of things. And I think it takes the certain players to see the vision. From the coach's side, you have to show the vision. From the player side, they have to buy into the vision. And so when guys ultimately come here, they have options. And so it's really cool that, everybody's getting aligned and they see the future and they see the vision for this place.
What do you really enjoy about developing quarterbacks? Obviously, you've developed NFL players, but what's your passion in watching these guys succeed?
That's a great question. I think my passion is seeing someone also have the same passion that I do and truly seeing that passion and seeing those guys work for what they want. There's a lot of talented people in this world, but there's a lot of people that don't have the ambition and the drive. And so when you meet that special kid that has that drive, that has that ambition, it kind of makes you want to come to work every day.
Yeah, when you've got a head coach, Dan Mullen, who comes from the offensive side of the ball, obviously, what's that relationship like in terms of, I don't know if you guys have worked out who's calling plays or how you guys are running practices, like what is that like just being the offensive coordinator on a team like this?
The cool thing with Coach Mullen is he's been so successful at so many different places with so many different styles of offense. Ultimately, we have a vision, we have a goal of things that you want to get done and accomplish, but ultimately the sign of a great coach is asking or being able to enhance what players can do instead of asking them to do something that might not necessarily fit their strengths. And I think that Coach Mullen, from all different types of quarterbacks that he's been around, even myself with the different styles of quarterback play that we've been around, I think that the both of us agree that we have to find what these guys are good at and then ultimately enhance their talents.
This is a pretty unique situation just in terms of college football. Just how enticing was between the stadium, the city, just all of that in regards to getting
Oh man, this place is unbelievable. It's going to explode. You walk in the building, you see the feel of, you see your UNLV shirts walking around. You see a lot of people think it's just the strip, but one thing that I've learned very quickly is there's a lot of pride behind UNLV, the UNLV alum. What this place has to offer in the facilities itself. Top of the line facilities day to day that you get to come to work in. I don't know if there's a better stadium in college football than what we get to play in every single week. So everything that you have or everything that you want or need is right here in this city.
The goal is to win a national championship coming off the 12-team playoff. What are your takeaways from the 12-team playoff?
I think I love the 12-team playoff because it gives everybody an opportunity to go out, and if you handle your business, then you ultimately have a shot to get those things. Maybe in the past it's been a reach. There's been a lot of good teams that didn't have an opportunity to go out and compete, and now it gives everyone the opportunity to go accomplish goals.
Everyone good? Appreciate it.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Coach.
Coach.
Appreciate you
Welcome
guys.
to
Yeah,
Vegas.
thank you.
Coach, for the people that haven't had a chance to see, your scheme, how would you describe that to folks?
I think we're kind of known for being very multiple. We're a 4-2-5, have the ability to get into 3-down odd looks. I kind of came up in the Rocky Long 3-3-5 tree. And so I think if you ask around college football, it's probably known for its multiplicity, both structures, defensive structures you present, and then various stunts and movements that are also employed.
And what was it that drew you to UNLV? You're a guy that obviously had some success in the SEC, and I'm sure Dan probably sold you on the rise of this program here right now.
Yeah, obviously, I'm born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Played in this conference, worked at San Diego State for a long time, and so have had some familiarity with the school. But the opportunity to come work for Coach Mullen, to learn under him, to be a part of his program. He's been successful everywhere he's been. His track record speaks for itself, and so you want to work with good people, and so the chance to come and work for him, learn under him, have the opportunity to try and accomplish his defensive goals. It was a privilege and an honor that he offered me the job, and excited to get here and get to work.
Is there any differences that you've noticed from just before in his last coaching tenure to what he's maybe picked up from that gap in between?
Well, I've never worked under him before, so it's not like I have firsthand experience. Obviously, we both spent time at Mississippi State, not during the same window, and so, I'd hear stories or things about his program that obviously I tried to copy as well. Heard a lot of great things in my time in Starkville about him and what he accomplished there, but not having any firsthand experience working for him. I don't know if I'm in a position to say I can pick up on things that are different from his time off.
You've been with successful programs in the SEC. What do you hope to bring over to UNLV?
No, I don't think it matters where you've been. I think obviously you're trying to do the best you can for the players in your program. This place has had a lot of success the last couple of years. The energy around this football program, you can feel it throughout town. Coach Odom and his staff did a great job. And so, obviously, with the world of college football now, you have so much roster turnover. There's a lot of new faces in the program. It's getting them up to speed on what the standards are, what the expectation is of playing for Coach Mullen. And ultimately, our job is to put a good product out on the field, an exciting product that fans are excited to watch and support. And so there's a lot of work to be done, and we're excited to get to that.
In your conversations with Coach Mullen, designing the defense, what kind of defense does he want? What are some of the goals, or what do you want to accomplish on that side of the ball?
I think ultimately he just wants a good defense, right? It doesn't matter necessarily how you accomplish it. The name of the game is to limit the opponent from scoring points. And so, simply put, the thing I appreciate about him is the mentality is you find a way in everything you do, right? And so just because maybe I've done something in the past or it's had success, it may not mean it's the right fit here, right? Our job is to evaluate who our best players are, what they do best, and then build the scheme around them. And so I appreciate his creativity and how he looks at the game of football, right? His willingness to think outside the box. And so I'm sure there'll be some stuff we've done that I've been a part of in the past that'll carry over and transition to here, and I'm sure there's stuff that won't. But ultimately, our job is to, like I said earlier, to put a good product on the field that accomplishes a goal, and that's limit the opponent from scoring points, because that gives you the best chance to win a football game. And so we'll do whatever it takes necessary in order to get that done.
This team is obviously losing a number of defensive leaders that were in prominent spots. How easy is it to identify those guys now that there is this new regime pretty early on?
I think you identify those guys really this time of year through off-season workouts, and you get a chance to watch how they perform, and when they get some adversity thrown at them, how do they respond to that? With the way the recruiting calendar is set up, obviously when the end of the regular season comes around, you're deep into the portal time of year, right? And so you're constantly doing that. Then coaches are out on the road really through till the end of January. And so really just coming back this week, this is the first time we've really had a significant extended chunk of time to get around the guys, watch them in workouts, watch them in on-the-field agility drills, and that process continues on now all the way up until spring ball. So I don't think any of us coaches are probably in a position right now to say we've identified who the future leaders will be. You got to kind of see how they respond in times of adversity.
What are your thoughts on the other side of the ball, just the talent the offense is bringing in?
I know it's going to be very competitive in practice. Obviously, the way you improve in this sport is through competition, and so the roster they've assembled on the other side of the ball, the coaching staff they have, the offenses they've been a part of in college football, that's going to stress us and test us every day on defense, which is a good thing, because that's when you want to, any flaws that may be in your scheme or things you didn't think about, you want them to get exposed in practice and not on Saturdays. And so selfishly, as the defense coordinator, I'm excited to get to go against an offense like that in practice every day because it should make us better. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Go
Coach.
Rebels.
Coach, I would imagine as a special teams coordinator, we turn on the tape, watched UNLV over the last couple of years. Got to fire you up seeing the way that they treated special teams and the pride that those guys played with on that side of the ball.
Yeah, there's no question. There's already a culture in place in terms of the importance of special teams, and with Coach Mullen's emphasis on special teams and my background, we're excited to just build on that. And watching the bowl game while I was going through the interview process for this position, it was exciting to watch just the way they approach the game in that phase.
What can you tell us about JoJo, his talent, and how you plan to utilize him this season?
Well, he's got unbelievable speed, change of direction, and ball skills. And anytime you can put those things together, you got a dangerous return man. But I'm just excited to work with all the guys and so many new faces. And, we'll make our decisions coming out of spring ball as to who's where and who we plan on using. But there's certainly a lot of speed and talent and athleticism, and that's going to translate well in the special teams game.
Your thoughts on Ricky White and what an unbelievable kid he is?
Well, I didn't get a chance to work with him, but just watching a little bit towards the end of the season and hearing people talk about him, it's outstanding. What a great representative of this program and the university, and just excited for him and see what happens next in his career.
Do you have a plan in place for like one individual to block 5 punts or whatever he did this past season? Is there a plan for that?
That is an ongoing process, and as we watch these guys through morning agilities and winter conditioning and spring ball, we'll identify the guys that have a knack and the talent, the length, the speed, the get off to do that. And like I said, Coach Mullen's going to be very aggressive, and that goes hand in hand with my philosophy, and we're going to put pressure on people, no doubt.
Have you and Coach Mullen worked out in terms of offensive and defensive starters being available to special teams and which players you'll be able to use and how that's going to work out?
We don't know who our offensive and defensive starters are right now, so I will tell you this. Coach Mullen comes from the school of thought where best players play. So that phase of the game will be an advantage for UNLV, and you start with the players that are executing the schemes. And, there's always going to be considerations with injuries or depth, but our best players will play on those units, and that comes down from the head guy.
Coach Mullen, what are you excited about just to work with him this year?
Well, it's been 27 years since we worked together. We were in our early 20s working in New York City at Columbia University. So I'm excited knowing his background, knowing his approach to special teams as a special teams coordinator. That's always a bonus because you're given the personnel to use, you're given the freedom to be creative, you're given the meeting time, the practice time. When the head coach emphasizes special teams, there's nothing more I could ask for as a special teams coordinator, knowing that I'm not fighting to use this guy or, fighting to get this scheme implemented. He's all about using that phase to be an advantage for the Rebels.
What have you seen with Jet Thomas, and what are you excited about just to work with him this year?
Yeah, just another guy with really good speed and really good change of direction. Those two skill sets translate well to the return game. So, we're hoping that with the talent we have on this roster, as we start to evaluate them in greater detail this spring, that we can be explosive in the return game. We can be very aggressive in the coverage game and attacking in the punt block game. So, again, just excited to be here in Vegas. I mean, who wouldn't be? And excited to work with Coach Mullen and the staff and all the players that have joined the program.
You guys lost a place kicker from last year to the transfer portal. You brought in someone for a place kicker. Just your thoughts on the talent there and what you feel like you can get out of that position this season.
Yeah, we brought in Caden Costa, who I recruited out of high school, and there are two kickers on campus that I think have a lot of potential as well. So it's an open competition. It always is, and that position is very black and white. It either goes through the uprights or it doesn't. So I'm excited to see what the competition brings out in all three of them. I always feel that competition either brings out your best or it reveals your worst. So either way, we're going to find out who's ready to kick for us come first game of the season.
Anything else? We good?
Thanks, Coach.